Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS. Continuing on with Conference Championship weekend. We're on to Saturday. We got 5 games, some big ones here, obviously. It's Conference Championship weekend. As far as Friday night, it was not my night. I actually went 0-2. Added UNLV at the end. Why? And then Jacksonville State. Oh, man, the end of that game. If you were on Jacksonville State and you watched the end of that game, you know what I'm talking about. Not necessarily that we deserved to win, but the way it lost. Jacksonville State was winning, and Kennesaw State converted a 4th and 14 to stay alive by scrambling. Oh, man, heartbreaking loss with Jacksonville State. But yeah, saw a couple good games. Well, one really good game, Jacksonville State. Got some good ones on the slate for Saturday, so let's talk about it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly.
Dog walking.
I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce.
Forgot to record these and then I turned everything off. So first game up, BYU Texas Tech. Looks like BYU got hit at 13.5. We're now up to 10K limits, looking at 12.5, pretty much across the board there.
All right, we're starting off with the Big 12 Championship. Joey McGuire just got paid. I suppose you take Texas Tech to the Big 12 Championship for the first time in 30 years. They give you a check for it. And you heard that correctly, 30 years. Texas Tech joined the Big 12 Conference back in 1996. This is their first time ever in the Big 12 Championship game. This is also BYU's first appearance in the Big 12 Championship game, but they have an excuse. It only took them 3 years. They've only been in the conference for 3 years. So both these teams making their debut in the Big 12 Championship game. As far as playoff implications, I think it's safe to say that Texas Tech gets into the college football playoff no matter what. They're currently sitting in the 4 spot on the AP polls. I suppose if they lose this game 60-0 to BYU, which in all likelihood isn't going to happen, but I suppose if BYU beats Texas Tech in embarrassing fashion, maybe there's a path to Texas Tech dropping out of the top 11. But if we're speaking realistically, Texas Tech is most likely in the college football playoff, win or lose. BYU, however, if they lose this game to Texas Tech, I would imagine they're going to fall out of that 11 spot. So BYU, in my opinion, is in a position where they need to win to get into the college football playoff, where Texas Tech is probably in either way. Now, whether or not that's fair to BYU, whether or not an 11-2 BYU team whose only 2 losses were both to top 4 Texas Tech, whether or not that's fair for them to not be in, that's a conversation for a different video. But I think the situation we're in realistically is Texas Tech gets in no matter what. BYU needs to win to get in. I think that's what we're looking at here. Obviously, this is a rematch from Week 11. We should start there. Texas Tech wins comfortably. I wish I bet this game, too. I had Texas Tech -10 and the under. That's what I picked on YouTube, but I didn't bet either of them. Final score was 29-7. Story of the game was Texas Tech's defense. BYU couldn't do anything in this game. They were held to just 255 yards of offense, and the 7 points they scored, they came in the 4th quarter when they were down 26-0. So, yeah, that was the story of this game. BYU's offense couldn't do anything against this Texas Tech defense. This is a BYU offense that needs to run the ball. They're a run-first offense all the way. They were held to under 2.5 yards per carry, 67 yards rushing in the game. Success rate per rush under 19%. So, yeah, story of the game, Texas Tech's defense shuts BYU down. And by the way, that's not unique to this game. That's kind of what we've been seeing from this Texas Tech team all year. This defense, 3rd in success rate, 2nd in PPA per play on the year. It's one of the best run defenses in college football this year, one of the best pass defenses as well. This defense has been pretty elite across the board. Now, BYU's offense has been pretty strong. They're 37th in success rate, 34th in PPA per play. But the Texas Tech defense is kind of the best the Big 12 has to offer. That's the cream of the crop there. Their linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, was just named Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Their edge rusher, David Bailey, was just named Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. So they've got arguably the 2 best defensive players in the conference there on that Texas Tech defense. Now, if you're looking for a path to support BYU's offense, you could say that Week 11 game was in Lubbock, where Texas Tech has always looked more dominant over the years. If you look at their run defense numbers at home versus on the road, I suppose there's a slight difference here. Just under 2 yards per carry to just under 3 yards per carry. But that's probably a testament to they've played tougher opponents on the road. You could also say BYU's star running back, LJ Martin, he was banged up for this game. I think he only had like 7 or 8 carries in the game, and he had gotten injured in the Iowa State game the week before, and he was banged up in this one, and then I think he was banged up in the week after that. He's now back to a full workload. In fact, he's running the ball really well right now. So I suppose you could say, hey, well, that game was at Lubbock. Now we're at a neutral site where Texas Tech isn't a dominant, little bit more of a level playing field, and now BYU has their star running back fully healthy, which wasn't the case in week 11. It's kind of thin, if you ask me. I mean, this BYU offense, this is another unit that I trust much more at home in Provo. In their last 4 road games, they have a success rate under 40%, 5.25 yards per play. So this is a BYU offense that's also looked much better at home. If you look at Bear Bachmeier's numbers throwing the ball in those same last 4 road games, I mean, he's got an NFL pass rating under 75. So BYU's offense, just like Texas Tech's defense, definitely a unit I trust more at home. So this isn't a home game for them either. This is a neutral site. Not that BYU hasn't handled their business away from Provo. They're 5-1 on the road this year, 4-2 against the spread. But I'm talking specifically in a sense of, hey, can we trust this BYU offense to put up a better performance? I'm not sure. I mean, this Texas Tech defense, if you remember, rewind 5 games ago, they lost one of their main defensive tackles there, Skylar Gill-Howard. And I was talking about it. I was like, are we going to see this Texas Tech defense take a step backwards, losing one of the main pieces on the defensive line? Well, they didn't take a step backwards. In fact, they're putting up video game numbers without him on the defensive line. In the 5 games since losing their starting defensive tackle, Skylar Gill-Howard, they're allowing 7.2 points per game. That's the points per game. That's not yards per play. That's points per game. 3.8 yards per play, success rate just over 27%. So I think it's irresponsible to expect BYU to do much here offensively. Maybe they look a little bit better now that the game's not in Lubbock, but it's irresponsible to expect BYU to do much here on the offensive side of the ball. Now, on the other side of the ball, I mean, this is where I think BYU can compete in this football game. This defense is very strong. They're 30th in success rate, 17th in BPA per play. Not that Texas Tech isn't great offensively. They are 39th and 21st. But remember, in that Week 11 game, it wasn't the Texas Tech offense. That's not the reason they won comfortably. They were held to 4.91 yards per play, success rate under 33% in this game. So I know you look at the final score, it looks like Texas Tech just dominated the game, and they did, but it wasn't because the offense was moving the ball fluently, not at all. In fact, the offense was struggling in that game against BYU. And remember, unlike Week 11, this game is not at home in Lubbock, and even more so than the defense, Texas Tech offensively has some pretty significant home-away splits here on the season. At home, they're averaging over 48 points per game, over 7 yards per play, success rate at 49%. On the road, 5.87 yards per play, over 41% success rate. Now, they play tougher opponents on the road, but this isn't new. That's kind of what we've seen. That's kind of been what we've seen from Behren Morton throughout his whole career. I trust him a lot more throwing the football at home in Lubbock than I do on the road. Now, again, this isn't a true road game. It's a neutral site. But I doubt he's going to have run support in this game. This BYU defensive front is tough. I mean, in their last 4 games, including the Texas Tech game, they're allowing 3.3 yards per carry, 35% success rate per rush, allowing less than 100 rushing yards per game. So we're talking about Behren Morton away from Lubbock, where he's been significantly less reliable throughout his career, most likely without run support against BYU's blitz packages. I think Behren Morton might struggle in this one just like he struggled in the last game against BYU. So I bet this game twice. If you're asking me which one I like better, I got on the under at 50.5. I think it should be 48.5. So if you're still looking at 49.5, I'd still hit it. I'm on under 50.5. And I'm on BYU at plus 13.5, but I don't necessarily love that one. Might have been doing some gambling there. I wouldn't play that at 12.5. I don't even know if I really like it. I do think BYU's defense can make Texas Tech struggle in this one. I don't expect BYU to do much offensively. I just think we're going to see a low-scoring, ugly defensive game. Well, not ugly. Defensive games are awesome, but I think we're going to see some great defense in this one. So I'm on under 50.5, and I also took BYU plus 13.5, maybe doing a little gambling with that. Next up, we got the MAC championship game between Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan. This game is at Ford Field, where the Detroit Lions play. This will be Miami of Ohio's 3rd consecutive trip to the conference championship game. They won the game back in 2023. The graphic's wrong. It's supposed to say 2023. They beat Toledo. They lost last year's conference championship game in embarrassing fashion to Parker Navarro and the Ohio Bobcats. So Miami of Ohio's third consecutive trip to the MAC championship game. This is Western Michigan's first trip to the conference championship since 2016 when they won it. So been about 10 years since Western Michigan's been here. This Western Michigan team finished as the 1 seed. They were 7-1 in conference. They had one conference loss this entire year, and that loss came to Miami of Ohio. Week 9, they went on the road, lost to the Red Hawks 26-17. Something important to take away from this game, though, this loss to Miami of Ohio. The player of the game was Daquan Finn. It was one of the best games Daquan Finn played all year. He had 260 yards passing, 52 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns in the game. He was awesome. Made some big throws downfield. Like I said, it was one of his better games of the season. The reason this is important to take note of is Daquan Finn is no longer with the team. He left the team a couple weeks back to prepare for the NFL draft. So Daquan Finn is no longer the quarterback here for Miami of Ohio. Right after Finn left, they moved on to Henry Hessen at quarterback. He only started one game, though. That didn't work out well at all. They're now on to their third-string quarterback, who is redshirt freshman Thomas Gotkowski. And they're very excited about Gotkowski. They're even saying, in God we trust. And let's give him some credit. He's a redshirt freshman. Last week was his first career start. He played well. He was efficient throwing the ball, 122.6 NFL passer rating, threw for 226 yards. Got to keep in mind, it was a home game against Ball State, arguably one of the worst teams in the conference. This is a completely different situation. This will be his second career start. He's not at home. He's not against Ball State. This is in Ford Field in the conference championship game against one of the best defenses in the conference. I mean, either them or Toledo as far as the best defense in the MAC conference. Western Michigan, 32nd in success rate, 30th in PPA per play. So Gotkowski may have played well last week in his first career start against Ball State, but this is a little bit of a different animal here. Western Michigan probably has the best pass rush in the conference. That kid Tucker, he's got 12 or 13 sacks. He's one of the best edge rushers in the country. He's playing in the MAC. So Thomas Gotkowski, great game, great first career start against Ball State. This is a conference championship against what's going to be the best defense he's ever seen in his life. And you look at this graphic and you might think, well, Gotkowski's got really nice numbers under pressure. This is a limited sample size. He's played a game and a half, most of which was against Ball State. This is a completely different animal. Now, I don't want to pretend that Western Michigan's defense has been perfect. I mean, we did see Eastern Michigan moving the ball on them last week. Eastern Michigan's offense is pretty good. They were on the road at Eastern Michigan. That offense is pretty good, and Noah Kim is a multi-year starter. That's originally a Michigan State recruit from years ago. This is not a freshman making his second career start in the conference championship game against the best defense he's ever seen. And on top of that, one thing he had in week 14 against Ball State was run support. Miami of Ohio averaged over 5.5 yards per carry, over 56% success rate per rush, 232 rush yards in the game. That was at home against Ball State. I very seriously doubt Miami of Ohio is going to be able to run the ball in this game. Let's not forget that before they played that cupcake game against Ball State in week 14, they were really struggling to run the ball. Remember, Kenny Tracy, their star running back, out for the year. In the 4 games before Ball State, they're averaging 3.63 yards per carry, 33.3% success rate per rush. So I don't think he's going to have run support in this one either. That pass rush is going to be on a level he's never seen before. I really don't like the matchup for Miami of Ohio offensively. Now, on the other side of the ball, there's definitely concern here for Western Michigan. This Miami of Ohio defense is very strong. They're 52nd in success rate, 39th in PPA per play. This Western Michigan offense is very one-dimensional. This is an offense that needs to run the ball. In fact, their quarterback, Brock Lowry, leads the team in rushing with 875 rush yards. So that gives you an idea of what kind of offense they run. They have to run the ball. This is a very tough Miami of Ohio defensive front. It's a tough matchup for Western Michigan's offense. I gotta say, though, this Western Michigan offense has kind of earned my respect. In the first handful of games early this season, this Western Michigan offense didn't look very good, but look at their rushing numbers from the last 7 games. This is starting to get really impressive. over 5 yards per carry, over 52% success rate per rush, about 230 rushing yards per game. We saw them go on the road to Northern Illinois, which isn't a great football team, but they're a pretty tough defensive front. They steamrolled them. They were running the ball in the Miami of Ohio game. Look at their last 3 games. It seems to be getting better as the year progresses. This is a road game against Northern Illinois. They played Ohio, the defending champs, and Eastern Michigan's defense was even playing better down the stretch. 283 rushing yards per game, over 5.6 yards per carry in their last 3 games. So this Western Michigan rushing attack has really made me a believer down the stretch. And when it comes to Miami of Ohio's defense, again, it's strong. You look at their last 2 games, elite numbers against the run. They played Buffalo. That offense they haven't been able to run the ball all year. That offense is terrible. And then Ball State on the road. That's probably the easiest opponent in the conference. In the 3 games before that, when they saw this Western Michigan team, Ohio, Toledo, some stronger offenses, they were getting run on a little bit. Not bad, 46% success rate per rush. But in those 3 games, they had linebacker Corbin Hondrew on the field. He was the team's leading tackler. He got hurt 2 weeks ago. He's not expected to play in this game. So one of their main tackles is out for this one, and this Western Michigan rushing attack just seems to be trending upwards, like I said, with a freshman quarterback making his 2nd career start against the best defense he's ever seen. Market disagrees with me here. I'm on Western Michigan -2.5. I got on a bunch of bad numbers in these conference championship game this year. I've done a great job beating the markets, but not this one. I'm on Western Michigan -2.5. I think they're able to run the ball a little bit, and I think Miami of Ohio really struggles to score. Don't hate an under either, but it is in Ford Field. And that's another thing about this game. Maybe that's why we're seeing some Miami of Ohio money coming in, is this game's in Ford Field, so maybe the indoor environment hurts Western Michigan's defense. It's a physical defense with an elite pass rush. Maybe they thrive on the outdoor environment. Could see that, but I'm on Western Michigan in this one.
Alabama, Georgia, this one was at 1.5, then it went up to 2.5, and it looks like when they raised the limits to 15K, Alabama got hit at +2.5, but we're still sitting at 1.5 across the board here.
All right, let's talk about the SEC Championship, and I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. Georgia, Alabama, SEC Championship. We all know the history here. Kirby Smart has struggled against Alabama. Kirby Smart is 1-7 as the coach of Georgia against Alabama. This Georgia team 1-10 in their last 11 matchups. Obviously, most of those were Nick Saban. But yeah, 1-10 straight up in their last 11 against Alabama, 4-7 against the spread. I will say, though, the one win was the Natty National Championship game. That was the game where George Pickens made the catch to win it. Yeah, that was awesome. So the one win was the big one, National Championship. But yeah, 1-10 in their last 11 matchups against Alabama. In specifically this game, the SEC Championship, they've lost 4 in a row to Alabama. 0-4 straight up, 2-2 against the spread in their last 4 SEC Championship matchups against Alabama. So no question, Alabama has had Georgia's numbers in recent years. This will be Georgia's 6th trip to the SEC Championship game in the last 7 years. This will be Alabama's 4th trip in the same time span. You don't see many SEC championship games that don't feature Georgia and Alabama, or Georgia or Alabama. In fact, you have to go back to 2013 to find the last time we saw an SEC championship game that didn't feature one of Georgia or Alabama. So yeah, a couple of frequent flyers here in the SEC championship game. As far as playoff implications go, pretty sure Georgia's going to be good to go regardless. They're in a similar situation to Texas Tech, sitting at 11-1. Even if they lose this game to Alabama, I'd be very surprised if they drop all the way down out of the top 11. So I think everyone would agree. I mean, maybe if they get beat 75-0, but I very seriously doubt Georgia's missing out on the playoffs. So Georgia should be good to go. As far as Alabama, it's tough to say. There's some speculation involved. If they lose this game and move to 10-3, they might be in jeopardy of missing the playoff. I mean, I think there's a world where Alabama loses and does still get in, but I can't say anything with certainty. So yeah, playoff implications on the line. Well, Georgia's going to be in regardless. Let's talk about the matchup. Obviously, this is a rematch from Week 5 where Alabama got them 24-21. Georgia kind of gave this game away, if you remember. What happened in that game? Why can't I think of it? Oh, they fumbled on their own 10. Yeah, they fumbled on their own 10 and gave Alabama, they actually held them to a field goal on that one. And then there was a play. Oh, yeah, this was the game where Georgia had a wide open receiver. They were down 3, and then a wide open receiver who the ball hit him in the chest, and that would have taken the lead. It was that freshman receiver who's been hurt. hit him in the chest. Georgia had so many opportunities to win this game. Not that Alabama didn't play well or didn't deserve it, but Georgia had a lot of opportunities to win this game and didn't take them. So let's talk about this matchup right here. Georgia's offense against Alabama's defense. Injury concerns here. So a big one with Georgia, their center, Drew Bobo, has been ruled out. Georgia loses their starting center before the conference championship game. You don't like to see that. He just got injured last week in the Georgia Tech game. I believe he was seen in a walking boot. Not going to play. He's been ruled out. Good news for Georgia, though. Their running back, Chauncey Bowens, looks to be coming back here. I think he's missed the last 2 games, something like that. He got injured in the Texas game, I'm pretty sure. This Alabama defense just lost a key starter as well, though. Their edge rusher, LT Overton, who actually made a couple of huge plays in the Georgia game, he's out. He just got hurt. So Georgia loses a center. Alabama loses the edge rusher, one of the better players. I'd say probably one of the best players on the defense. So key injuries on both sides here in terms of the matchup between Georgia's offense and Alabama's defense. This Georgia offense, I know that the rivalry game against Georgia Tech wasn't very pretty, under 3.9 yards per play. Yeah, it was an ugly offensive game. In the 5 games before that, this Georgia offense seemed to be clicking. I mean, 35.6 points per game, over 52% success rate, over 6.2 yards per play. They lit Ole Miss up. They went into Starkville, did whatever they wanted in front of the Cowbells there. So this Georgia offense definitely seemed to figure things out down the stretch. Here's the thing. You can say the same exact thing about the Alabama defense. If you look at their last 5 games, allowing less than 15 points per game, 3.85 yards per play, success rate under 30%. Now, they did play some questionable offenses here. South Carolina's offense is terrible. LSU's offense has been terrible all year. Oklahoma, certainly not an offensive juggernaut there. Eastern Illinois, that's funny. And then Auburn, obviously with Ashton Jane, that's not an offense that scares you. So they did play a lot of bad offenses, but you know what? You can kind of say the same thing about Georgia's offense and the defenses they've seen down the stretch. So in terms of Georgia's offense against Alabama's defense, both have had relatively easy competition down the stretch. If you rewind back to weeks 5 through 8, when Alabama's defense saw some tougher offenses, including the Georgia game, by the way, they were really struggling against the run. In those 4 games, they were allowing almost 6 yards per carry, over 48% success rate per rush, 167 rushing yards per game in that 4-week span. And they really haven't seen a team that can run the ball since, well, Auburn can run the ball a little bit. That's not fair. But back when they were seeing some strong offenses, they were struggling against the run, including the Georgia game. Like I said, Georgia in week 5 against Alabama, they were able to rip off a couple of huge runs. They averaged over 6.8 yards per carry in that game. And they also played that game without their right tackle, Ernest Green. Now, they had their center on the field, who's now out. But this game against Alabama, they were missing Ernest Green, their right tackle. He didn't return from injury till a few weeks later. So, obviously, the center did play, though, who's now out. And then, like I said, Alabama's edge rusher, Overton, he made a couple of huge plays in that game against Georgia. As far as Gunnar Stockton throwing the ball, he's been playing really well. You look at his last 4 conference games. I mean, NFL pass rating over 123, over 251 passing yards per game. He's handled pressure really well. This Alabama defense does seem to be playing its best football right now, but with the injured edge rusher in a neutral site, indoors, I don't think there's many defenses that can stop Georgia from scoring the way they're playing right now. So I don't really care about the rivalry game against Georgia Tech. I think Georgia's going to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to be able to score points in this game. The question is, do we trust Georgia's defense to make stops against Ty Simpson and the Alabama offense? First, we'll start with the injury concerns on this side. Alabama left guard Cam Dewberry is dealing with an injury and is listed as questionable. No word on whether or not he's going to play. Also, star running back Jam Miller is listed as questionable. He's dealing with, I think, a leg injury. But we're unsure if he's going to play. So a couple key injuries listed as questionable for the Alabama game. Jam Miller just got hurt in the Auburn game last week. Also, their tight end, Josh Cuevas, looks like he's not going to play. So Alabama missing some pieces on the offense. Now, Georgia's missing some pieces on the defense as well. Safety Kyron Jones and defensive tackle Jordan Hall, both not going to play. But neither of those are new. Those guys have been injured for, I want to say, like 6-7 weeks now. Linebacker CJ Allen for Georgia is back, which was huge. I think he only missed 1 or 2 games. He came back last week. So some injury concerns for Alabama's offense. And this Georgia defense, kind of like what I was saying about the offense, and honestly, similar to Alabama's defense, they seem to be playing their best football right now. We saw Georgia's defense struggle in a couple games early. The Tennessee game, they really struggled. Even the Alabama game wasn't a great defensive game. I mean, 5.16 yards per play allowed, 40.3% success rate. That's not bad. But pretty much since the Alabama game, if you look at the 8 games since then, they're allowing under 4.7 yards per play, under 38% success rate, 15.3 points allowed per game in their last 8. So we saw Georgia's defense struggle in a few games early, and I think we were all like, Georgia just doesn't have the same defense this year. We haven't really noticed that since the Alabama game, Georgia's defense has looked official. Now, you got to you got to talk about the strength of competition. They did play some lesser teams in the SEC, but Georgia's defense definitely seems to be playing their best football right now. And check this out. This Alabama offense really hasn't looked the same outside of Tuscaloosa this year. I was actually surprised to see how extreme these home-away splits are. Alabama's offensive numbers away from home this year, ugly. 24.8 points per game, success rate under 39%, just 4.6 yards per play. So this Alabama offense hasn't looked nearly the same in their road games. Now, this isn't a true road game, obviously. This is a neutral site, but you don't like that Alabama's offense has looked much better in Tuscaloosa, and this game is not in Tuscaloosa. And look specifically at Ty Simpson's numbers in those road games. 221 passing yards per game, 97.3 NFL pass rating isn't bad. Really struggled with pressure. Yeah, I think Georgia's defense can play well. I know Alabama just owns them in this rivalry, but I think second half of the season, Georgia was the better team. Not 100% sold on Alabama's offense. I know that they can make big plays, Ty Simpson and those receivers, but I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. Even if Jam Miller plays, I don't know if he's 100%. I don't think they're able to run the ball in this game. I think Georgia can run the ball. I think Georgia can throw the ball. I think Georgia has a lot more paths to scoring points in this one than Alabama does. Yeah, I'm on Georgia money line. I got minus 120. Look, the line's probably right at -2, -1.5, 2. This might be me doing a little bit of gambling. Not sure if I necessarily think I have an edge on Georgia money line, but yeah, I think Georgia wins the game, so I'm on Georgia money line. I did bet this. All right, next up, we got the ACC Championship game between Duke and Virginia in what is kind of a disappointing ACC Championship game. Not that, look, obviously Miami, Florida State, Clemson, those are the teams we love to see in here. Not that parity's bad. It's just a combination of, there's a possibility if Duke wins this game that the ACC is not represented in the college football playoff, which is crazy. And then both these teams are dealing with key injuries. So it's just kind of a down year for the ACC, but still, let's talk about the matchup. Obviously, this is a rematch from Week 12 where Virginia kind of embarrassed Duke in that one. The final score was 34-17, and Duke even scored a little bit late to make that game look closer than it was. It wasn't close. Virginia dominated Duke in that game, and the problem with this Duke team right now is I just don't know how we can trust this defense. They're 99th in success rate, 121st in PPA per play on the year, but at least early in the season, they were doing a pretty solid job against the run. They've been struggling in coverage all year. They've been getting thrown on all year, but early in the season, the defensive line was pretty good. They were generating some pressure. I suppose they're still generating pressure, but we've even seen them get run on a couple times recently. I don't even think this Virginia offense is good. We'll talk about it in a second. If you look at Duke's defensive numbers from the last 6 games, I mean, these injuries are just racking up. They lost linebackers Nick Morris Jr. for the season, Kendall Johnson, Elliott Shaper. I believe those are 3 of their top 4 linebackers, or maybe 3 of their top 5 linebackers. So key injuries here on the Duke defense. They're extremely thin at linebacker, and it's just adding up. In their last 6 games, they're allowing 6.7 yards per play, over 47% success rate, over 33 points per game. This Duke defense just doesn't look good at all. Now, they did play some tough competition down the stretch, but this Duke defense just can't seem to stop anybody. And I want to be clear, I don't even think the Virginia offense is good. I mean, I've talked about this before. You look at their last 7 games. The only game where Virginia was able to move the ball efficiently was the Duke game. Week 12 against Duke, they averaged over 7 yards per play, 39% success rate, 34 points in the game. In their other last 6 games, so their last 6 games exclude Duke, they're averaging just 4.7 yards per play, 35.4% success rate. This Virginia offense really isn't good right now, and it hasn't been good for a while. Now, they were dealing with injuries. The quarterback missed some time, but This Virginia offense is not a unit I trust at all. And now they're coming into this game with key injuries themselves. Their left tackle, their starting left tackle, Mikhail Boley, he left the Virginia Tech game after 15 snaps. He might not play in this game. One of their main wide receivers, Cam Ross, also got injured in the Virginia Tech game last week. He might not play either. So like I said, this is not a Virginia offense that I think is very good at all. And now in addition to that, they're dealing with key injuries. So as much as I don't trust the Duke defense, I don't really trust the Virginia offense either. So I really don't know what to think on that side of the ball. I know Virginia had some success a few weeks ago against Duke's defense, but they're not as healthy as they were a few weeks ago. There's key injuries here. Duke's defensive line still has talent on it, and Virginia's might be missing their starting left tackle. I don't trust the Virginia offense. I don't trust the Duke defense. And on the other side of the ball, these are the two units I trust in this game. I trust Virginia's defense a lot. This is a strong defense. And Duke's offense has been pretty good for most of the year as well. Maybe not so much the last few games, but for the most part, it's been a good offense. But Virginia's defense is playing without their best player. Linebacker Cam Robinson went down a couple weeks ago. He's second on the team in tackles, and he only played in 7 games. It's the most important player on their defense, and I think he's out for the year. So he's not playing in this game. So I don't know how much I trust this Virginia defense without Cam Robinson on the field. Now, he got injured 2 games ago, and in the 2 games they've played since he got hurt, we haven't seen the effects. I mean, they're allowing less than 4.3 yards per play, under 27% success rate, but I wouldn't be surprised if we finally see missing their best player catch up to him here. Now, we also have to point out that Darian Mensah he's kind of fallen off a little bit. His passing numbers don't look all that efficient in his last 4 games, just a 91.9 NFL passer rating. I mean, when he has a clean pocket, he is making the throws, but he's been under a lot of pressure. He's been holding on to the football a bit more. So Mensah doesn't look quite as good, and the Duke offense seems to have fallen off a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Duke has a good offensive game here. Everything about this game is weird. Like the perspective of it is weird. Think about it this way. So Duke, we all look at Duke's season as a disappointment, right? They won 6 conference games. They went 6-2 in conference. They won 6 ACC games for the first time in 12 years. They're playing in the ACC championship game for the first time in 12 years. They've got a chance to win their first ACC championship in 50 years. And it still feels like a disappointing season. So everything's weird about this game. The playoff implications are weird. The feel of it is weird because I feel like this Duke season is a failure, even though they're playing in the ACC championship game. Everything about this game's weird. I guess Duke and under. Duke plus 4.5 under. What is that? 57.5. I'll say Duke and under, but to be honest, I really don't know with this one.
Indiana, Ohio State, and we are seeing Hoosier money. Was at 5.5. They keep raising the limits. Indiana keeps getting hit. We're down to a flat 4 at 15K limits at the time of recording.
And finally, we get to the Big Ten championship game. Indiana, Ohio State at Lucas Oil. Winner takes home the Heisman, maybe, between Mendoza and Saya. Nah, I don't know. Obviously, people are saying that. This is actually the first ever Big Ten championship game that features the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams, both 12-0. Yeah, it doesn't get much better than this. You got Alabama, Georgia in the SEC championship game, and you got 2 undefeated teams, number 1 and number 2, in the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State allows 7.8 points per game this year, which leads college football. Indiana is second, allowing just 10.9 points per game. So not many offenses score points when they play Indiana or Ohio State. Believe it or not, this is actually the first time we've seen Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game since 2020. So we've gone 4 straight years without Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Now in 2020, they won it, and it was actually their 4th consecutive Big Ten championship. But let's switch it over to Indiana because this is their first appearance in the Big Ten championship ever. I believe it's 72 years in the Big Ten conference and have never played in the championship game. First Big Ten championship appearance ever for the Hoosiers. So let's get into it. Indiana, Ohio State. Obviously, we're dealing with the 2 best teams in college football according to the AP polls, and when we're looking at efficiency numbers, it's obviously going to be nothing but green here. Indiana, 2nd in success rate, 4th in PPA per play. That's Indiana's offense. Ohio State's defense, 10th and 4th. And it's going to look like this on the other side of the ball as well. Spoilers. So do we think Indiana is able to move the ball on Ohio State's defense? So this Indiana offense hasn't seen a defense like Ohio State this year, but there are some similar data points. So we take a look at the 3 closest data points here for Indiana. That would be the road games at Iowa, at Oregon, and at Penn State. Now, Indiana's offense was able to still move the ball in this game, obviously not nearly comparable to the 50.6 points per game and over 57% success rate, over 7.8 yards per play that they were averaging in their other 9 games. But it's still good to see for Indiana that they went on the road to Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State, and they were still able to move the ball over 5.7 yards per play, over 43% success rate in those 3 games for Indiana. Now, Ohio State's defense, I got to say, the closest data points for them to Indiana's offense, I'd say, are definitely a step down. They had Texas in the opener, Washington with Damon Williams. That's kind of an explosive offense, not on Indiana's level, though. And then Michigan in the Big House, not that explosive an offense, but still a good data point. In those 3 games, I mean, they allowed 4.4 yards per play, 36% success rate, 7.3 yards per play, points per game in those 3. So Ohio State's defensive data points aren't as strong as Indiana's, but the production is more impressive. So this is definitely the biggest test of the year for Ohio State's defense. I will say, though, Fernando Mendoza, the 2 pass rushes that he's seen that are most comparable to Ohio State's pass rush will be Oregon and Penn State. He didn't play all that great in those 2 games. He had an 80.9 NFL pass rating. Numbers from a clean pocket didn't look good. He was under a lot of pressure. The offensive line was having trouble keeping him protected. So you definitely don't like that as you're about to play Ohio State. The 2 elite pass rushes that you saw, they were able to get pressure on your quarterback. And honestly, we can't forget what happened last year. I mean, Indiana was lighting everybody up last year too until week 13. They went on the road to Columbus, and they couldn't do anything in that game. They averaged 2.64 yards per play, 35% success rate last year in week 13. And last year's Indiana offense was lighting everybody up too. Now, this is completely different circumstances. This game was in Columbus. Obviously, this is at a neutral field this year. Also, this year's Indiana offense does seem to be better than last year's Indiana offense. And if you followed along with Indiana football last year, you know that Curtis Rourke was actually dealing with an injury down the stretch last year. There was talk that he wasn't even healthy in this game. He wasn't really using his legs. So completely different circumstances, but I feel it's important to point out that Indiana's offense was lighting everybody up last year as well until they saw Ohio State, and they got slapped in that game. What was the final score? 38-15, I think. They kind of gifted Ohio State a couple scores in the game, but in terms of the Indiana offense, they couldn't do anything against Ohio State's defense. So I would imagine they struggled to move the ball in this one as well. Now, what about the other side of the ball, though? Because this Indiana defense, 5th in success rate, 8th in PPA per play, one of the best defenses in college football, you'd have to say, up against what might be the most efficient offense in college football. Ohio State 1st in success rate, 5th in PPA per play. On paper, the most efficient passing attack in college football. 1st in success rate per dropback, 1st in PPA per dropback. We just saw Ohio State go on the road to the Big House in the freezing cold in front of the Michigan fan base. Very harsh environment. They made Michigan's defense look like Northern Illinois in that game. Over 49% success rate on the road in the Big House. Both the receivers are back. Jeremiah Smith and Tate, both back on the field. Both came back from the Michigan game. Both are practicing in full. So Ohio State's fully healthy in this one. They even had a banged-up offensive line, and I'm pretty sure they're all back as well. I think it might have been the depth of the offensive line. But Ohio State's fully healthy for this one. We just saw them abuse Michigan last week in the Big House. Now, Hartline, he took the job at South Florida. I'm not sure if that affects anything, though, because he's remaining with the team. So I think that's a non-factor. This Ohio State offense is for real. Now, Indiana's got a crazy pass rush. They blitz a lot. They're able to give quarterbacks all kinds of problems. But Julian Sayin, he's got over a 138 passer rating against the blitz so far. Over 108 passer rating under pressure. And this Ohio State offensive line has been elite in terms of keeping Julian Sayin protected. You know that Julian Sayin has only been sacked 6 times this entire season? 6 times. He's been sacked 6 times this entire season. So this Indiana pass rush, it's had a ton of success this year, but they're playing a team that almost never lets the pass rush disrupt them. So I don't like that for Indiana. And on top of having the most efficient passing attack in college football with their 2 superstar receivers back on the field, Ohio State all of a sudden is figuring it out on the ground. In their last 5 games, they're averaging almost 200 rushing yards per game, over 5.1 yards per carry, over 52% success rate per rush. So this Ohio State offense seems to be clicking on all cylinders. We've even got an elite run game to worry about now as well. Now, does that mean they're able to run the ball on Indiana? I'm not sure. I mean, Cignetti always has an elite run defense. No one's really been able to run the ball much on Indiana this entire season, outside of Old Dominion in the opener, who ripped off a few big plays. But no one's really been able to run the ball in Indiana this entire season. When it comes to Indiana's defense, though, we have that Week 7 game in Eugene, which was beyond impressive. This team went out to Oregon, and this defense was lights out. They held the Ducks in Eugene to under 4.2 yards per play, 36% success rate. They won the game outright, 30-20. I will say, though, we've seen a couple games since then where the Indiana defense looked a little bit mortal. Not that it looked completely terrible, but we saw Michigan State consistently moving the ball on them in that game. And if you remember, I talked about it. Michigan State turned the ball over on downs deep in the zone. They missed a field goal. They fumbled in the red zone or something. I forget exactly what it was, but Michigan State was moving the ball on Indiana in that game. And then Penn State, they were struggling with Penn State's offense with Gronkemeyer, over 45% success rate. Remember, Indiana needed a last-second touchdown to win that game. They almost lost outright to Penn State. Now, I know this sounds nitpicky, but when we're talking about Indiana against Ohio State, everything's going to be green. It's going to be tough to find dents in the armor. And when it comes to this Indiana defense, there's some dents in the armor here down the stretch. There's been times when we've seen this Indiana defense falter a little bit. This is Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, the best passing attack in college football, fully healthy with a run game that's surging as well. Yeah, as you could tell, I'm on Ohio State in this one. Look, we're taking Indiana money here. Clearly, there's people sharper than me that are playing Indiana here. Part of my bet is based on the fact that I played Ohio State every single game in the college football playoff last year, 4 straight against Tennessee, against, what was the path? I forget, but I played them in every single college football playoff game, and then obviously they won and covered them all. So I'm not bailing on that. It's playoff time. I'm on Ohio State minus. I got -5.5. So chalk it up to another game where I'm on a terrible number, which didn't work out for the Friday night games. But yeah, I'm on the Buckeyes. Played them all postseason last year. Might end up doing the same thing this year. Thanks for watching. I'll be getting the NFL video up later on Saturday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Let's have ourselves a great conference championship Saturday. Remember to bet responsibly. See y'all tomorrow.